Hey everyone. Do you ever play with words? If you're a writer, you should be doing this because words are like paint for a painter. Words are the paint writers use to put together pictures and stories. So I wanted to share with you three of my favorite ways to play with words. One is to collect them. So I might be reading poems or stories and I find words that I'm like, oh, that's a juicy word. Hooligans, for instance, or havoc. And I take these words and I put them in my list of words and I try and incorporate them into my next day's writing. And it just does something to the brain and gets the language kind of flowing. So that's one way to play with words. You can do this by yourself or you can do this with a friend. So I've had a writing buddy for over a decade, almost two, I think. And we call it Writemans. So every day we exchange words and we have to incorporate it into what we're writing and then send that off to the other person. So that's a really fun way to play with words. The next way I play with words is kind of like a palate cleanser. So sitting down to do my writing, I want to clear the space in my mind, and maybe I've been out for a walk and getting my breakfast ready, and then I'm ready to write. And so to refocus my awareness and my mind, instead of launching right into story, I do this. I take a letter from the alphabet. So usually I start with A and I move down through the alphabet for the next 26 days. And you just write. I don't use a timer, but you could use a timer. You could do 10 minutes. I do 5 or 6 lines, unless it's the letter K or X, in which case I have little variations. But I write 6 lines of words that start with that letter. So apple, aggravate, assume, and on I go for 6 lines. And it's like a low stakes exercise because we are just trying to come up with words. And sometimes those words are pretty juicy and we start pulling them into what we're working with. What I also think it does is it tunes our ear into certain sounds and we begin to feel words more in our bodies. So the third word game that I like to play with myself is strengthening verb use. So it's not such an easy, game, and it's more something I try and do in revision, but I look for where the verbs have been watered down. Could have been, might be a good indicator, the run of verbs that don't feel very strong. And I look for a way to take the action of the story and put it into more verb form. So an example would be, instead of she pulled her skirt down over her knees, I would see that action and then I would go, okay, well, what is the verb that pulling the skirt down over her knees is? She lengthened the skirt over her knees. So that's 3 fun ways you can play with words and build your not just your vocabulary, but the way that you use words and have fun at the same time. Imagine that. Talk to you soon.